Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for coming to listen to me speak. It's always like surreal to me that people actually sit down and listen to what I have to say, so I appreciate it. My name is Aja Nikiya, and I am the founder of Compassion Kind. I'm also the co-partner of Humane Apparel, which is over that way. But the main thing is our foundation, and we really work on marginalized groups of people and animals. Any group of people and animals that are suffering and need help. So we're kind of all over the place with our projects because we don't really have any kind of bias towards any animal, any being that is suffering and needs help, we're there to help. So I just wanted to give you guys an intro about that. Over the past 10 years, I've been traveling extensively. I work a lot mostly in Africa and the Caribbean. Those are kind of my areas closest to my heart. But I do a lot of work here locally. We actually have one of our adopted dogs right here, Rico. He's very famous. So that's a little bit about Compassion Kind. If you guys want to know anything else, we do have a booth over there. Yes, he is very famous. So today, I really, I thought long and hard about what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and I know a lot of the speakers talk about going vegan, which is obviously a great thing to talk about, and definitely one of the best things you can do to help the animal and environment and the world right now. But I wanted to kind of focus a little bit differently on really rethinking compassion. And compassion is sort of a theme that, I don't know, is very important to me. Obviously, Compassion Kind is the name of my foundation. And I just feel that this world could use a lot more compassion. So I want to talk about rethinking compassion and getting back to our roots. And I made all these cute little note cards because I had a PowerPoint, so you guys will just have to deal with my pink cards today. So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys is just a show of hands. Who here hates trees? Nobody. Okay. What about the ocean? Any ocean haters in the building? In the tent? No? Okay. What about mountains? Beach? No? Okay, what about shopping on Ross on a Saturday? Okay, good. So we all love the environment, right? We all love nature. So why do we continue to destroy it? I don't know, I ask the same question to everybody. Does anybody hate animals in this room? No, we all love them. Innately, all of us have compassion in us, and all of us love nature, and all of us love animals. So I always ask myself, well, where did we go so wrong? Where did we get to where we are right now, where we have disasters every week, where climate change is changing the face of the environment? We're losing indigenous species every single minute. While we're sitting here, we've probably lost 4 amphibians and 3 insects that we'll never know how important they are to us. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today a little bit. It's getting back to human nature. And what does human nature mean? Anybody have an idea of what human nature definition? Anything other than this one in the front? So human nature is really about these psychological traits of feeling, character, and compassion. And if we think about human nature, that includes everybody. Every human innately has those 3 things. But what's really messing us up is ignorance. And I say that in the nicest way possible. We're all ignorant to some degree. A country you've never visited, an animal you've never met, something you don't know about, a new disease. Like we all have a level of ignorance, but what we need to start doing is really thinking about how we can become more conscious and what we can do in our daily lives to really make a difference. So something I was thinking about when I was thinking about human nature in particular, human nature is really a combination of 3 things. It's goodness, compassion, and ignorance. And what we seem to be leveling up on a lot lately is ignorance, unfortunately. So what I want to do and what I want to talk to you guys about is replacing ignorance with consciousness. And consciousness, what is consciousness? Anybody? Awareness. Okay, yep. It's state of awareness of self and the world. That, by definition, is consciousness. So how can we be conscious if we're not thinking of ourselves, but then also the rest of the world? So, right now we're at a crucial time where we really can't afford to be bystanders. You guys have heard of the bystander effect? Anybody? No? Okay. So the bystander effect says that there was a study done, I think it was at Harvard, where they had a homeless man staged. It wasn't really a homeless man, he was just staged, he was acting. and they had students walk past this man, and they wanted to see who would actually help this homeless man that had a little sign up. And all of the students kept walking by, and then what they noticed where the change happened was when one student decided to stop. And then all of a sudden, guess what? There was chain reaction. 30 people are there wanting to help this homeless man. So that tells me we as an individual have a way of making a change just right there. Just that in that one moment alone. You have the possibility of making a difference in one life and also all of the lives that you come across every day. So how do we get back to human nature? How do we get back to our roots? So I thought about this, and I really wanted to come up with some examples of how in our everyday lives we're connecting to nature, but somehow we've just twisted a little bit. Somehow we're connecting in all the wrong ways. So there's a couple examples that I'm probably going to offend somebody here, and I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm just giving you knowledge, and I'm just going to bring up my own personal examples. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up was an example: fishing. I'm not here to bash anybody for fishing at all, but we talk about catch and release, and I hear people all the time tell me, well, Aja, I just catch and release. Like, I just go out with my buddies and we catch a fish and we throw it back. We're not killing it. We're doing no harm. If you really think about it, every time somebody goes fishing and gets one fish, that one fish is part of a school of fish. So what you've done now is you've created terror, and you've got endorphins running through this one animal, and you think to yourself, that's not going to make a big impact. That's not going to do much. But that one fish has the ability to affect the entire school of fish, which could be hundreds of thousands of fish. And we're wondering why we have a lot of ocean overfishing is obviously a big problem. But I just like that example because it's one fish in a sea of billions of fish. But that one fish has now changed. That entire school of fish, maybe they don't migrate that year. Maybe they all die off because now they're scared of catching food, which is their one thing that they do every day. So that's always an example I bring up because a simple thing like catching a fish has an impact on millions. You don't even know it. So I'm not bashing anybody again for fishing, but I just want you to think about the effect that that one fish can have on an entire ocean. Something else, I've been doing a lot of traveling recently, and I've been working very closely on a wildlife trade issue in Dubai, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware. But in Dubai, people have pet lions and pet cheetahs, orangutans galore. It's just part of their everyday world. We see just on our end from one importer 10 baby orangutans every month. And if you guys know how rare baby orangutans are, and these are not bred animals, these are coming straight out of the forest. So these people are clearing these forests every day. And then we see the music videos come out with an orangutan and a cheetah, and we've got celebrities showing that this is cool, this is the way of life. The palace in Dubai has tigers right in front, chained up, like with a 3-foot chain. So how is anybody else going to think that they shouldn't have a pet tiger in their home when the very policy in place is that it's okay to do that? But where we can judge other countries all day long, right? Everybody, who's heard of the Yulin Festival? Of course, we're all angry about it. Nobody thinks we should be killing dogs, but we shouldn't be killing other animals either. And we judge them, but let's think about what we're doing right here. All the exploitation that's involved right here in the United States. I think about animal testing. Animal testing is something that we may not know every time we go to the grocery store, every time we go shopping. There's obvious ones, leather, palm oil. Everybody knows these ones, but there's a lot of secret ingredients that people don't talk about that are tested on animals, the makeup and cosmetics that you're wearing, the pharmaceuticals that you're putting in your body, which is always a really hard dilemma for me too, because I always try to think back like, oh my God, if I'm taking this antibiotic, how many animals have to die to... So it is hard. I'm not saying that we can all fix it right away, but at least if you're conscious about it, and you look at an ingredient next time you go to the store, or you check out the back, and you look up maybe 5 ingredients that you want to try to avoid. That's making a sincere impact on the rest of the world. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was domestic breeding. So Obviously, everybody's adopt, don't shop now, most people. But we haven't seen puppy mill numbers go down. So I don't know what's happening, but there's still puppy mills everywhere, still breeding animals. And where that all comes from, I actually did an analysis from like the 1940s of every pet that was ever introduced in a movie or a TV show. And that's actually where the breeds got their popularity, where people wanted a Lassie dog, where people wanted a wishbone dog, where all these new breeds of dogs, we've actually created that ourselves. So every time we, think about wanting a pug or these animals that are specifically bred for us to enjoy, that's really not something that we should be doing. We can stop that. We don't have to buy animals online. We don't have to go to pet shops and buy exotics. As much as we love them, we're actually doing more harm than we are doing good. And that's always been a hard thing, because even as a kid, I would go into a pet store and I would go crazy. I would want the lizard, like 5 fish. I'd go home with like 3 mice, all kinds of animals. But I'm thinking to myself, well, if I keep supporting that demand, they're just going to keep filling those cages with more and more animals. So these are things that I think about every day, that I'm just going to a store trying to do something regular, a pet stop, I go to PetSmart and I see like 25 animals that I want to adopt, because I'm so sad that they're stuck in those cages and I want to do something, but that's not, it's not going to actually do any good. I'm just bringing another animal into the cage. We think a lot about Yulin Festival, where thousands of dogs die within a 10-day period of time. But we're killing billions by the billions of animals. I just the other day, I was driving back from Las Vegas and I wasn't there for fun, trust me. No gambling was involved. But I was driving back and I passed 3 semi-trucks with pigs in them. And again, I'm not here to bash anybody for what they eat, but even from 3 lanes of traffic over, I saw into every single one of those animals' eyes, and every single one of them had fear. Every single one of them had a tear in their eye. Every single one of them knew that they were going to die, like that's where they were headed. So factory farming not only is obviously going back to being vegan, it's wonderful, but I'm not telling you all to go vegan today. I'm not. I'm vegan, but I don't push that. But at least minimizing your consumption, because not only is it cruel, not only do they have some of the most horrible practices in factory farms you can imagine, which I'm sure you guys have already heard, so I won't go down that lane, but we're also impacting the environment. You have to think about these countries in Africa that are giving up all of their land and all of their natural resources, people that actually depend on the land every single day and the water resources. All of these cattle that we have out there, all of this land that we need for all these animals to graze, they consume more water and land than any other category on this planet. Factory farming. Transportation, doesn't even cut it, doesn't matter. Factory farming. We use more land for factory farming to feed animals with more feed. Instead of just bypassing the animal, we could have used those water resources and all of that grain resource to actually feed some poverty-stricken countries. So thinking beyond the pig or the cow that you're going to impact, you really have to start thinking about, oh, we lost a bulletin board back there. Got it. Good. We really have to start thinking about, it's not only about that. Even if you don't care about cows and pigs, even if you don't care about the cruelty, even if you don't care about any of that, you should care about water. We should care about affecting hundreds of thousands of other people, I think. I mean, I don't know how you can sleep at night without thinking about stuff like that. So that's just another example. I did want to talk a little bit about hunting. I won't get too far into it again, but I just want everyone to be mindful about really what goes on. Something that I think about, you all are probably aware of the black bear hunting that we had about a year ago, right? So we fought hard to keep it banned. It's back up on the plate again, to come back around again. What I find interesting about it, Fish and Wildlife, just so everyone knows here, I hope nobody's from Fish and Wildlife. Raise your hand if you are. Okay. Let me not name names. But, a lot of these are funded by hunting and gaming. All of them. Even though you think it's Florida-based and that it's a government entity, they're not. They're funded by these groups. So, what I think about with hunting is I think about the black bear case in particular. And I always have to look into everything. I wanted to know, what was the reasoning? Was it really that we had an overpopulation problem of black bears? Definitely not. The numbers declined so much. They killed all mothers and lactating mothers and cubs. I had a friend of mine, I was unable to be there, but he photographed and videoed the entire thing. And every single one of those animals was a mother or with cubs. They pulled them out of their dens. I mean, it was a massacre. It was one of the most horrific things I've seen. And that's right here in Florida, right here. And we as constituents have an opportunity to say that we don't want that to happen. But what gets me about the black bear thing is now I saw some statistics like 3 months ago that black bear was on the decline. I'm like, interesting. I wonder why it's on the decline since we killed 348 of them last year. So, you know, you have to be aware, and I go back to consciousness. When you see these things and you're like, okay, maybe it's okay that we kill 300 black bears this year. There's an overpopulation problem. Clearly, Fish and Wildlife has stated that this is an issue. We should be doing something about it. But really do your homework. Really, really look into it and think if that's really what's really going on. Because we have an impact at least to our as a constituent and as somebody in the state of Florida, you can do something locally. So if you guys see the black bear thing come back on, please sign the petitions. Please reach out to your congressman. They do listen. And that's something that you can do to live a more compassionate life right here in Florida. Another thing I was going to talk about was entertainment, obviously, but I don't think anybody here is going and anybody here riding elephants or holding baby tigers? Okay, all right, good. None of that. I actually met somebody a year ago, and she told me she was going to Thailand to ride the elephants, like to my face. And I was like, let me sit down for a second, like, this is still happening? Like, that was her sole purpose for going to Thailand, just to ride elephants. And I was like, oh God, help me. Like, how am I gonna talk to this lady? How am I gonna figure this out? So I took a deep breath and I was like, okay. And I was like, you know, like these animals are kept on chains, very, very terrible lives. They deal with back sores, all kinds of spinal issues. Like it's just not a good life. And she's like, I don't care. I'm just going with my friends and we just want to ride elephants. I was like, okay, there's those people that I can't talk to about it. Really? He's upset about the elephant riding too. So don't ride elephants and don't ride dogs. They can hang out with me, that's fine, I don't mind. But anyways, these are just a couple of examples of things that are going on that you guys have an opportunity to do something about. Even if you don't go vegan, even if you just want to cut out animal testing, it's doing something. And so getting back to the beginning of what I was talking about, being more awake and being more conscious and thinking about our actions on a daily basis, getting back to human nature and eliminating that third element, which is ignorance. Something that I also wanted to bring up was getting back to nature is also getting back to our roots and getting back to indigenous cultures. If we look back in time at indigenous cultures, Native Americans had it all right. Native Americans, I can't say enough good things about their principles for the environment and how important the environment was for them. They appreciated every land, water, every buffalo that was killed, everything was used, and they had to. And that's the connection to nature that we need to get back to. That's where we got lost somewhere along the way. We started going to circuses and zoos because we wanted to see elephants. We started buying pugs and poodles because they're the cutest little dogs and they are adorable. But we started doing all these crazy things that really, if you go back and you think about it, even when I think about fishing, why does anybody like to fish? Like, anybody have why do you like to fish if you fish? I just threw you under the bus. No, but I know, I'm just kidding. But, okay, all right. No, but if you really think about it, they're not going fishing because they want to be cruel. Like, let's think about this. Nobody's going out today on their boat and they're like, let me go hurt some fish. I just want to be mean. Nobody does that. Everybody likes being on a boat. We're in Florida. You want to be in the sun. You want to enjoy boating. Like, I get it. I understand it. But why not go snorkeling? Like, why not jump in the water and see a million fish instead of just catching that one that you get to see? Like that, I try to think of the psychological gratification of catching that one fish. I can understand it. I get it. You're out there all day. You've got your bait out there. You're trying to see it's a challenge. You're going to see what kind of fish you can pull out. But I don't know. Why not go out on the boat, have some beers? Yeah, right? Have some Coronas. I mean, that's exactly. So those are all the fun components. I don't think it's the actual fit. I just don't. I don't know. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's the experience. I think it's being out on the boat. I think it's being out in the sun, getting a tan, and having beers and being with your friends. I think you should just grab some snorkel gear and jump in and see all the fish you can. Why not? So it's just, it's things like that. This is my brain. This is how I think. But I just share it. Maybe it's something that will, spark with somebody. But back to the indigenous cultures. There is something I wanted to share with you. There's something very beautiful that I found a couple weeks ago. The Maori people in New Zealand, I didn't know anything about them. It's an indigenous group of peoples. They have a saying. It's called Kaitia Kitanga, and it means to guard and protect nature for future ancestors. And I was like, oh, this is good. Like, that just made so much sense to me. Like, I resonated with it so much because, we're trying to protect ourselves to live our own livelihoods right now. But what about the ancestors that have yet to come? Like, what about the people in 200 years? What about the children in 200 years? What kind of rivers and lakes, what kind of fish are we leaving behind for them? Are they going to know what an orangutan is? Are they going to know what a polar bear is? I don't know. Maybe we'll have some new species come around, but we're killing everything off. So I think about that saying a lot. And it just makes me every day think about what can I consciously do that's going to protect the environment for the future generations, not even for me to enjoy, but people in 200 years to enjoy. So, the Buddhists definitely have this down. I mean, do no harm. It's exactly what we should be doing. They're very connected to nature. So I bring up all these examples of indigenous culture because guess what? They're still human, and so are we. And we've evolved, but shouldn't we be evolving in a better way? Like, most animals evolve and adapt to their environments because they need to survive. But we're killing ourselves right now. I work a lot in disaster relief. I started maybe 5 years ago. In the past year, every other week, I'm at a disaster. Every other week, there's a fire, there's an earthquake, there's something somewhere. These hurricanes, this hurricane that just happened in the Bahamas, how it stood, I've never in my life seen a hurricane just sit. It sat on top of the Bahamas for 24 hours. 24 hours. These are super storms, things that we're not even aware of. And what makes me even more sad about it is the people that are usually impacted by it is who? The poor, poverty-stricken countries usually. Now, I will say the Bahamas was not biased. A lot of people with a lot of money also got their houses wiped out. But I will tell you guys about an area that you're not going to hear on the news that I work in right now. It's called Marsh Harbor. It's in the Abacos Islands. And I don't know what the latest death toll is in Bahamas right now. Does anybody know what the last number is? 34, I think. In one area alone, 3,000 people died. I was there. I was pulling bodies. I was doing the work on the ground. And an entire area of Haitians, of course. The Haitian communities are always getting the backlash of every storm. Anywhere that they run to, somehow they end up at, the eye of the storm. So, again, like, this is something on the news. They don't want to talk about it. They're going to talk about a death toll of 34, where I personally know for a fact at least 3,000 people died in Marsh Harbor. There was a population of 10,000 in one area. The entire area is flat, and 3,000 people died, and nobody's talking about that. But these are the kind of disasters and situations that we're creating, that climate change is creating. And if we don't believe in climate change yet, I don't know. I mean, I've never had to deal with so many disasters. I was just at a fire in California. Then there was an earthquake in Puerto Rico. The next day was another tropical storm. Like, I can't even keep up anymore with disaster relief because it's just too much. So we're at this crucial point where we have to do something. We have to stop. Like, we have to figure out how to get off this tipping point where we're really just gonna, perish at some point. But the thing is that the earth will fix itself. But I don't know about us. I don't know about us, and I don't know about animals. But I know Mother Nature, like, she'll grow her trees back. She'll figure it out. Like, everything will work out. But for humans and animals, we're not that lucky. We have to figure out how to figure this out and be more conscious in our daily activities and what we're doing. So I have, like, way too many cards left. This is bad. I went on a tangent here. But anyways, getting back to compassion and getting back to the environment. Um, I really just wanted you guys to think about being more compassionate in your daily lives. How can you have more sympathy and empathy towards other beings? And it's an easy thing to do. We think it's difficult, but you can do one thing a day that you can think about next time you shop. Like, find something that's not hurting animals in the jungle. Maybe pick one day a week that you're not going to eat meat. That's fine. That's okay. Not everybody has to be vegan 7 days a week. It would be great. It would be wonderful. But if you can at least minimize your impact, that's doing something, and you should be proud about that. And you shouldn't feel bad about it. You know, you don't ever let anybody make you feel bad about what you're doing. Like, we all have a way that we get to a certain level. We all have a progress. When I started, I was vegetarian for most of my life. We ate fish growing up, and then I started eating chicken in middle school because all the dance moms would just bring Chick-fil-A bags, and we just ate chicken, and I was always hungry, and so I ate chicken. And so I ate chicken through middle school and high school, and then I gave it up in college, and then I went to it was like a animal rights convention in Tallahassee, and I met a woman there that she ended up being a very good friend of mine, and she was like, I thought I was amazing because I was vegetarian. I thought that was like awesome, just being vegetarian. And boy, did she school me that day. She was like, "Are you eating eggs?" And I was like, "Yes, but there's no animal." She's like, "No, no, no, honey, let me tell you about the eggs." And I was like, "Okay." So she schooled me on that. And then she's like, "What about cheese?" And I was like, "Oh man, I love cheese. Like, you can't take cheese away from me. I'm Italian. Like, we need cheese." And she's like, "Let me tell you about the dairy farm cows." My life was ruined from that day forward. Officially ruined. And this was 11 years ago. We had no good cheese. I don't care what anybody says. That soy cheese 10 years ago, awful. Awful. And my mom swears that I used to like Rice Dream ice cream. Does anybody remember Rice Dream ice cream? No. Nope. Now we have Ben and Jerry's. We have Breyers. Like, you know what I'm talking about. And good cheese. I should be getting paid for that marketing. But it's changing, we have more options now. But back then I was like, oh man, my life is done for. Without cheese, I can't survive. But I adapted, and I got used to it. So anyways, I won't keep you guys too much more. I want to leave time for questions, but I just really wanted us to just get back to our roots and think about where we came from and where we started and how close we were to nature and how we're still trying to be close to nature, but we've just gotten a little lost along the way. We've gotten a little off track. So if we can think about ways that we can bring it back and we can really just start to protect the environment and really think about our actions on a daily basis, I think we're all going to live a lot happier and healthier life. So that's really it. And I truly believe that one random act of compassion really has the ability to change a life, So if you guys can keep that in mind, help a homeless person, help a dog you see, help a dog that's running down the road. Even if you're 5 minutes late for work, it's not going to kill you. Your boss is going to forgive you, I promise. So that's all I have to say about that. And I'll let you guys ask questions, anything that you guys want, or even if you want to talk about something that I said about fishing, maybe that offended somebody, or hunting. Like, please ask me any questions you want. I'm not easily offended, so I'm here. Yes. Where's the glasses?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I want to thank you for waking up my compassion bone.
You're welcome. It is a physical part of the body. We're learning now. Physicians have been talking about it the last year. Compassion. I like it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Yes.
What made you start Compassion Mind?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I did my last master's, I was kind of in a weird place. I was actually, can you believe this girl right here, like, ran marketing departments and wore a suit? Yeah, not now. I clearly didn't have a sleeve, and I clearly didn't have locks. But yeah, I actually used to run a lot of the agencies locally here in the Tampa Bay area. I used to market for places like McDonald's. Oh yes, oh yes. Dollar Thrifty rental car. Not my proudest moment, but it's okay. But yeah, I started realizing that all of these brands were horrible, and I didn't want to work for them anymore. So I went back to school, and I really wanted to focus on global sustainability and how we can bridge the gap between people and animals. That's really like my area, what I'm interested in. So I picked my thesis, and I decided that I wanted to go to Africa. Africa has been a place I've always had close to my heart since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated by the animals. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this as my excuse to go to Africa. And I was in Malawi and Botswana for about 4.5 months, living out in the bush. And I ran into a lot of nonprofits and a lot of NGOs and a lot of conservationists and a lot of people that I put on a high pedestal most of my life. And then I realized where most of the money was going. I started trailing back on research projects and where funding was. And I realized that most of the money wasn't going anywhere that it needed to be going. So that was disappointing, but it also, I thought I was going to work for the UN. That's what I wanted to do. Then anyways, we won't talk about that. But I just realized if I wanted to do something, I needed to do it for myself. So I founded Compassion Kind so that way I knew where every single donation dollar was going. And I didn't have to think twice about it. And I knew it was going to the projects that I wanted it to go to. So that's why Compassion Kind exists. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Talked about catch and release and
Yes.
how fish can inform the other fish behavior.
Mhm.
But also the fish is damaged by the hook.
100%.
And
Yep.
often cannot eat.
You are on point.
The death sentence.
It's a very slow death for them, yeah. There's no way you can really catch a fish effectively to where their livelihood isn't going to be affected. So I will probably be like pinned to the wall for saying this as a vegan, but I'd almost rather you catch it and eat it than catch and release it. I know that makes me a terrible vegan for saying that, but I'm with you. You know, if you can at least minimize the suffering, that's always what gets me is the suffering. I can't do suffering. And that's exactly what that does. So thank you for bringing that up. It's a very slow death for them. So I'm with you. Very good point. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so sometimes people, like Compassion Kind, I know it kind of is not a weird name, but it doesn't always go together, but what it stands for is compassion for all kind. And I always think about humankind and our innate nature of being good. You know, we're all born with the possibility of being good and compassionate. So that's why Compassion Kind has that name. Anybody else? Yes.
It's a question of keeping domesticated animals like dogs and cats that are omnivorous. I mean, in any supermarket, aisles and aisles of dog food,
Yeah.
lamb, chicken,
Yes.
cow, beef, what do you say about that?
You know, it's a tough question. So I run an animal shelter in Puerto Rico, right? I am vegan. And I was at a Veg Fest I think it was Sarasota Veg Fest last year, and somebody asked me a question, and I was like on the spot, it made me a little nervous, but she said, well, do you feed your animals vegan dog food? And I said, well, no, but we also just only get donations, so whatever we get is donated, and I can't afford to buy V-Dog all day. But it is a tough question. I'll tell you, my animals at home, personally, they haven't gone vegan yet. My animals, I won't buy lamb, beef, or bison, any of that, but I do buy chicken-based products for my dogs and my cats. I try to keep them away from seafood just because of all the mercury and all the issues, but I think when you think about most of that meat that's being used is a byproduct of the meat that's already being consumed for human use. So your impact is a little bit less, but it's a tough one. And I think about it. I feel guilty. I know I'm contributing to some chicken dying because I had to feed my dog today. And it messes with me, but I don't feel, I have a lot of special needs dogs, and I'm not at a point where I feel 100%. The research isn't 100% there for me. I have friends that swear by it. Their dogs are all vegan and they're living their best life, and I think that's great. But I'm not there yet, but I go slowly. We do a lot of veggie snacks and some, here and there, but it is a good point. It is a very good point. Definitely something to think about. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, Sorry.
I tried vegan dog food with my dog.
Yeah.
My cat.
They didn't like it. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, they are carnivores. Cats are carnivores. So when I think about it, you know, people, there's, you know, the arguments of us being carnivores or herbivores, like, what are we? We can evolve. We can use protein in many different ways in our body. We're physiologically much different digestive system than animals in a lot of ways, other than being the closest to herbivores. That's our digestive tract. So yeah, it's not a perfect science. It's not. I mean, but like I said, thankfully it's usually a byproduct of the human consumed. But I've been trying to like just cook my own dog food too, which is even worse for me because I'm like, I don't want to cook anything, but then I know. It's a catch-22. I'm with you guys. I go through the same struggle. It's hard.
I order freeze-dried dog food.
Yeah. I have like a veggie loaf that I get for them, and it's they've been really liking it. But like I said, I do, you know, free range chicken, but I try. It's the best you can do with the information you have. The best you can do. That's what I always say. So you know, that's the way I live my life, and I'm not a perfect vegan. I'll say it out loud. Not a perfect vegan on any given day, and I will gladly tell everybody that because you can't be perfect. There's a day that you're gonna need doxycycline. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have a cold. You're gonna need some amoxicillin. Hate to tell you guys, not vegan. But if you can make an impact on other scales, you know, you have a weight system. You know, you get points here, you lose some points here, but at least you're doing something. So that's the way I try to think about it, and the way that I don't make myself completely insane overthinking it. So yeah.
Apropos of this discussion, the saying comes to mind, don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Oh, I love that. Can you like say it? Did everyone hear him? Say it. I'm gonna mess it up. Say it one more time.
The expression, don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Yes. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Spoken by my friend over here. That's 100% it. I get so upset. Sometimes I come to these things and there's a lot of vegans, and I have like a small following on Instagram, and I'm in the vegan world, and sometimes I see things and I just bite my tongue because if you and I get attacked too from my foundation, you know, because I feed my animals and I'm not 100%, you know, with my shelter dogs. Like I get it. I get the comments. People get mad at me when we have fundraisers sometimes that are at restaurants that aren't all vegan. But I'm like, if I keep having fundraisers at all vegan restaurants, who's my audience? Who am I talking to? Like, why would I want to talk to all the vegans at the restaurant when I could be at a place like Chili's that might have one vegan option and I can tell everyone to eat that? So you have to really think about it, and I agree. You can't be perfect. So many people, they're like, well, I couldn't do this and I couldn't do this part. I'm like, so do the rest. The rest was great.